Hello everyone, I am Dr. Charu Dogra Rawat, Associate Professor at Ramjas College, University of Delhi, and today I start with a new series on research methodology. I would be particularly talking about pertaining to scientific research. Research methodology is a very general topic which can be involved and included both in social sciences as well as the natural sciences. There are many lectures that you can find related to the social sciences. In natural sciences, that is what I will start today, and we will be doing the introduction part aspect of it. The learning objectives particularly for the today's session would be to understand what is this basic scientific research, to understand the conceptual components of research, and we will make a quick differentiate between the research methods and research methodology. Because I have seen many people and students get confused between what research methods involve and what is research methodology actually. So looking at scientific research, the first question that comes is, what is science? So science is nothing more than a magic. It's just performed by the academics. If you have worked in labs or if you intend to work in labs, then this is the probable definition of science as a layman that comes into mind, because you mix things, you do certain experiments and you kind of create new things, and performed basically by academics, because educated, the people who have done doctorates, etc., they are mostly, the scientists are mostly involved in doing this kind of a science. But what actually the science is? Science is peeping through a manhole. Science is looking at how the boats float on water. Science is looking at the eating done by the eating processes, the feeding processes, the formation of the food. Science is anything. Science is basically curiosity. So wherever there is a curiosity, there is some kind of a mechanism, there is some kind of a scientific explanation probably behind it. More scientifically, if we define what is all this science stuff, then as said by our Nobel laureate, actually the science is simply the systematic accumulation of knowledge based on evidences. In fact, we are all born scientists, is as he said, and I quote, in fact, we are all born scientists and are intensely, curious about the world around us, constantly making deductions based on the data. Now, what are the key words in this statement that he made? The key words is the systematic accumulation of knowledge. So, systematic accumulation of knowledge, not a very diffused knowledge. It is very logical. It is around a, it's a sequential probably. And when we systematically collect and acquire this knowledge, then it pertains to science. Another key term was evidence. So, which is again a very, very important aspect of scientific research, that there has to be certain kind of a proof. There has to be a certain kind of an explanation well based by the documentation, the experimentation, the results and everything that this knowledge is described, based on. Curiosity, as I said, again he said, we are all born scientists. We are all born scientists and we are curious about the world around us. So anything that we are curious to know about probably can be told as science. Then making deductions based on the data. Again, this tells us that we are basically analyzing something. When we get curious about something, we start finding about it. We start deducing, and these deductions are made upon the data. The data that we collect, the observations, the certain kind of results from the expectations, etc. So it is very important to understand what science is before we try to understand what scientific research is. Now, how is this science done? It is not a very straightforward process, but rather it is creative. Earlier, we used to divide various things into particularly our education into science, humanities, that used to cover the arts subjects, and we used to say commerce, which was basically related to accounting, business studies, etc. But nowadays, particularly as you go and see New Education Policy 2020, these demarcations for all these disciplines have been, really made blur. Because you cannot, science is a very creative process, just like arts is. So you have to be curious, you have to be creative as well, but you have to be very precise. We will talk about that. So you have to validate what you get. So that is what science is. So it is not very demarcated today, all these different things, but all the boundaries have become blur, and therefore when we say how is this science done, an important aspect is that it is not a very straightforward process, that you find something, you get an answer, you explain something, but yet again it is a very creative process based upon how the deductions in science is done. In fact, this is a very good article which says that scientific thinking explain the scientific thinking in young children. It explains the theoretical aspects as well as the empirical research and even the policy making. So what it emphasizes on is that scientific discovery, the scientific learning or thinking is basically just like how the children think or how the children learn, because they are all blank slates. They are curious about everything. In the pictures that I showed just a few slides back, you could have observed that all were children. So the children intrinsic the personality is to be curious. They are more open to learning. They are open to questioning. They look for answers. They might not be that into reasoning, but as they grow, the abilities of reasoning and analysis also come into being. So how is this science done? This science doing can be learned from the children. Not only the theoretical laydowns that is kept, but also the empirical research that is done, and in fact even the policy implications as well. So this is a very nice article that I quote, and it can be read. Now when we look into research, because we have to, our session is on research methodology and scientific research, then research is basically an aspect of doing science. When we start to do science, when we become curious about something, we identify certain things, we start laying down the methodology how to find out or explain that particular phenomena or behavior, we start with doing what is called as a research. The purpose of science is to create the scientific knowledge, which refers to a generalized body of laws and theories to explain a phenomena or behavior of interest that are acquired using the scientific research. Now, from this definition, it appears that scientific research is basically a method employed to learn science or to create knowledge, to create scientific knowledge, that is basically science. So yes, it is, but we will again look into it that it is not just the method, it is not just the technique how to do science, but it has a much broader and wider perspective, and therefore the term research methodology. So as I say, I hope you understand it clearly that the purpose of science is to create scientific knowledge, and how this scientific knowledge, which involves the creation of laws and theories to explain any particular phenomena or behavior of interest, we acquire certain methods that is included as an aspect of scientific research. So I elaborate more about this during these subsequent slides. So as we see, the scientific research operates at the two levels. So two levels, basically three levels in fact, but third level, which is related to the policy documentation, we kept aside because it involves many other different stakeholders which get into the making of the policy, and not just the people who are carrying out scientific research. So we talk about the scientific research, which is basically and primarily creating the scientific knowledge, and not like making policies or administrative work. We are not included in this particular aspect of scientific research. So two aspects, as I said, it operates at two levels. One is the theoretical level and the second is the empirical level. Now theoretical level is concerned with developing abstract concepts about a natural or a social phenomena and relationship between these concepts. That is to build theories. When we are going to define or describe any natural phenomena or a social phenomena as well, as I said, there are many descriptions about the research methodology which is overlapping in natural as well as in social phenomena. My emphasis is on natural science, which is basically the earth sciences, the atmospheric sciences, the molecular level of sciences, the genetics, all those kind of biological sciences that I am dealing with. So my emphasis will be to explain that, but it does not mean that these are two separate fields. There are many overlaps when we will discuss about the quantitative, qualitative data, the methodology, even the other aspects of this research methodology. Many of the things are overlapping between natural and social phenomena, but obviously we will be taking examples from biological sciences to understand more about this research methodology. As I said, that the theoretical aspect or the theoretical level of research, scientific research, depends upon or it's concerned with the developing of conceptual theories, to build theories. As well as the empirical level, it talks about the testing the theoretical concepts and relationships to see how well they reflect our observations of reality, with the goal of ultimately building better theories. Now these statements, we will try to dissect bit by bit and understand more about the scientific research and the research methodology. But I hope you understand about the theoretical aspect, which is basically forming theories, and the empirical level, which is based upon making the deductions based on the data, the observations, the experimentations, and basically to prove or validate those theories, as well as to find out the aspects which will build better theories and which will help us to improve upon those theories, or in fact sometimes even discard those theories and make new ones. So empirical level, it's the scientific research is not just concerned with laying down hypotheses or setting the theories, but it is equal component is the validating those theories to find evidences on which these theories can be based or proved. So empirical level becomes very, very important. So as we can see, this is the cycle of the research. So theory is basically the building of the theory or the theoretical concept, and when we say observations, this observations is derived from the empirical research, from experimentations, from general observations as well, but from experimental research. What kind of observations do you get? What inferences can you make? What results? What conclusions? So this is basically the empirical aspect, and based upon these various experiments, what theories you can postulate. So this research is, scientific research is cyclic in nature. So you lay down a hypothesis based on the certain theories. So that is the testing the hypothesis you do by experimentations, which is then you get these observations, and then based upon these observations again you generalize and produce some kind of theories. There are two additional terms in this cyclic nature of research, which is induction and deduction. So when we say theories, then probably we can lay down these theories by doing scientific surveys, we can do review of literature, or we can have certain data which was already present, and based upon that we deduced certain, so we deduced certain theories. We deduced certain theories, and when we want to validate these theories, this becomes a deduction part. So we deduct the experiments based on these theories. We try to perform the experiments to prove these theories, or based on these theories to validate these theories, etc. We collect evidences, we infer these evidences, we make certain conclusions, and then design and induce some more kind of theories. So this is the cyclic natures, the two levels, the theoretical and the empirical level, and the two aspects are basically the deduction and the induction as well. So I hope this cycle of research is a little clear to you. Now, concluding scientific research therefore requires two sets of skills, theoretical and methodological, needed to operate in the theoretical and empirical levels respectively. Now, these two sets of skills are very, very important. You know, when we talk of scientific research, when I ask you, visualize a scientist, you will probably visualize a scientist wearing a white lab coat, probably an old-aged man or a woman, and performing certain experiments in a lab. That is what you will picturize it as. So when we talk of scientific research, we generally think of experimentation, the table work, doing some kind, mixing certain solutions, looking into the microscope, looking through the telescope for the astronomical sciences, collecting some earth samples, collecting some soil samples, collecting some plant samples, animal tissues, dissections, all those kind of hands-on experimental work. That is only what we visualize the scientific research as. But that is why I was, I took this session, because I just want to clarify, because this session is again very important for the people who want to pursue scientific research as a career, for all the students who are in their undergraduates, etc., who even want to pursue, and they think that research is only about the, only about the experimentation part. Research is an intrinsic ability of a scientist. A good scientist is basically to derive these theories, to make models, to identify science that can be researched upon, to to ascertain or lay down the methodologies on how to do that. There are many techniques and methods involved. What methods to adopt? And when you get the results, how to infer the results, how to validate the results, what to conclude. So research method is just a part of scientific research or the research methodology as such. It is not the scientific research. So conducting scientific research requires two sets of skills. So while you do various kind of internships, trainings, etc. in the laboratory, so that your hands-on are better, you also need to tune yourself or to create this skill of theoretical research in you. And that's, again I will talk in subsequent sessions, that how do you do that? What is this theoretical research? What is the concept of research or research methodology that you need to understand? So I hope these two skills are very important, and you should know about it. So methodological skills, as I said, is about the know-how. They are relatively standard, invariant across the disciplines, and can be acquired through various doctoral programs or even the internships and trainings, etc. That is basically that how do you perform a certain thing. So even all those things which are where even the research technicians are involved, or project assistants are involved, they are basically into performing a certain kind of an experiment and doing it. But theoretical skills, which is actually know what, is considerably harder to master. It requires years of observation and reflection, and are tactic skills that cannot be taught, but rather learned through experience. So it cannot be taught in the sense that, it cannot be, you cannot have a very discrete protocols on how to do it. Of course, the theoretical skill also can be taught in the sense that one can share their own experiences and pass it on to the students or the fellow workers, so that they can also tune themselves to think in this manner, to think research and not just do research. So these are the two aspects that one should understand and give equal importance to know what than to just know how. Because I have seen nowadays that the students just think that they probably have done polymerase chain reaction, or they probably have done DNA isolation. We have done series on biotechnology. We have talked about various recombinant DNA technology techniques. So they think if they know about these techniques, they can go into research and they can become very good scientists, and they can do that. But it is incomplete. Knowing just about the technique is one aspect, but how to use this technique, or where to use this technique, or what combinations of techniques to be used, what is the problem, how to find the solution of that problem, all these things are important aspects of research methodology, and anybody who wants to pursue science should tune themselves on that level to become a good researcher. So I hope these two skills are clear to you. Now coming to what we say is the research methodology. So I hope that I am able to talk about the scientific research. What does scientific research means? So I started off talking about with what is science, what is scientific research, and what does this scientific research include? Not just the experimentation, but also thinking research, but also knowing what, why, how, everything is basically the scientific research, or as we will talk about, the research methodology. So science of learning the way the research should be performed systematically is termed as the research methodology. There are many important aspects to this research methodology, which we will take one by one. The first and important aspect is to recognize the research. What does even the research look like? Anything that we get curious about, is it research? For example, finding a button in your back pocket, or looking something up on the internet, reading a book, doing some kind of a practical work, or just asking a friend, is this research? So one has to very importantly identify or recognize what the research is. So finding a button in your back pocket is probably, you are doing some kind of an activity. You are putting your hand into your back pocket and trying to look for a button. But that finding is not research. Or looking something up on the internet. We lot of times, we say that we want to do research on this particular aspect, or we want to compare. So when you are just looking for something on the internet, it does not constitute a research until and unless you make a comparative aspect of it. You look into various kinds of references, and then you try to derive certain information from all these components, looking into various aspects of what it has gone into. So reading a book is not a research. You are just reading it for pleasure, you are enjoying a story, and that's it. It does not involve the research. But when you read the book, you try to make a synopsis out of it, you try to derive the information and then validate that information, you try to conclude something from that information, then it constitutes the research. So just doing some practical work, as I said, it is not the complete research. The practical work is the work of a technician. It's just a technique that you are using. It's just like, even running a washing machine, or it is just like running a microwave oven. The PCR is just like that. There is a protocol, and if you are doing that practical work, it does not constitute any research. It will become research when you employ this particular technique to create a scientific knowledge or information. So I hope you understand this aspect of research methodology, and we will continue this in our further sessions. Thank you.